Have you ever noticed someone who seems to hold the world at arm's length, not because they don't want to connect, but because every step closer feels like stepping onto thin ice? Imagine a soul caught in a silent storm, where emotions crash like waves, yet no one sees the tempest beneath the calm surface. This is the hidden reality of the avoidant soul, the silent fights they wage inside, battles so intimate and raw that they rarely find a voice. Silent fights aren't always loud. For the avoidant soul, they're battles waged quietly within. It's easy to mistake avoidance for indifference, but here's the truth: the silence is not absence but a fortress built from layers of fear and past pain. They don't want love, but love feels like a double-edged sword, offering connection, yes, but also threatening to expose every fragile crack they've been desperately trying to hide. Within these silent wars, avoidant individuals wrestle with emotions they suppress: longing, fear, shame, all tangled together like a knot that tightens whenever they try to unravel it. Sometimes, it looks like detachment, but beneath that surface lies a deep, aching vulnerability. Imagine standing at the edge of a vast canyon, wanting to cross to the other side where warmth and trust live, yet frozen by the fear of falling into the abyss below. That's the paradox of the avoidant soul. They don't want love, but the tragedy is they long for connection, yet retreat deeper into solitude. It's like wanting to hold a fragile glass of water but fearing you might shatter it if you grip too tightly. So, they hold back, not because they don't care, but because the risk of emotional overwhelm feels unbearable. This push and pull, the desire to reach out and the instinct to pull away, creates a tension that hums quietly beneath their every interaction. Avoidance is not mere indifference, it's a complex defense, a shield forged from past wounds and the dread of being truly known. They carry invisible scars that whisper, if you let them in, you might be broken again. So, they build walls, brick by brick, around their hearts. These walls aren't just barriers to others, they're defenses against themselves, against the parts they fear are unlovable or too much. And yet, the tragedy is that these very walls also trap them in isolation. Imagine a bird with clipped wings, longing to soar but grounded by its own fears. Avoidant souls often live like this, yearning for closeness but retreating before it can fully bloom. They wrestle with feelings of inadequacy, convinced they are somehow flawed or not enough. This inner dialogue can sound like a whisper in the dark: I'm better off alone. If I get too close, I'll be rejected. But here's the truth: avoidance is a story of survival, not of apathy. It's a silent scream for safety in a world that once felt unsafe. Behind the guarded exterior is a heart that aches for acceptance, a soul that craves understanding yet fears the vulnerability it demands. Imagine a garden hidden behind a high fence, beautiful, waiting to be seen, but protected fiercely from the outside world. To truly recognize these silent battles is to see beyond the surface, to understand that the avoidant soul's retreat is not a refusal but a fragile attempt at self-preservation. They don't want love to hurt them, they want love to heal them, but the pathway feels obscured by shadows of doubt and mistrust. This internal war is exhausting, a constant push-pull between hope and fear, connection and avoidance. They don't want love, but their silence speaks volumes. It's the language of pain and protection, a quiet plea that often goes unheard. You might hear them say, I'm fine, but beneath those words lies a storm of confusion and guarded longing. Sometimes, they might think, if I just keep people at a distance, maybe I won't get hurt. And yet, the very distance they create often leads to the deepest loneliness. Imagine walking through a crowded room but feeling completely invisible, not because others don't see you, but because you've wrapped yourself in a cloak of invisibility. The avoidant soul knows this feeling intimately. They navigate a world that demands openness and vulnerability, yet they fear these very things: the risk of being truly seen and the possibility of rejection. This inner conflict is not a sign of weakness but of complexity, a nuanced dance between the desire for closeness and the instinct for safety. It's like holding a fragile flame in a storm: one misstep, and it might be extinguished. So, they hold back, careful, cautious, always watching for signs of danger before allowing themselves to step closer. But here's the truth: they are not unreachable. Their silence is not a closed door but a guarded threshold, waiting for the right moment, the right person, or even the right courage to open it. The tragedy is they long for connection, yet retreat deeper into solitude, caught in a liminal space where hope and fear coexist. And still, despite the walls, the avoidance, the silent fights, they carry a quiet hope. A hope that one day, someone will look beyond the defenses and see the tender, vulnerable soul beneath. A hope that the fight will ease, that the silence will break, and that connection won't feel like a threat but a balm. So, when you meet an avoidant soul, remember this: they are not indifferent or cold, they are warriors of a silent battle you cannot always see. Their avoidance is not rejection but protection, a complex dance of fear and longing, pain and hope. And in understanding this, we begin to see them not as distant or unreachable but as deeply human, beautifully flawed, and quietly courageous. Have you ever felt this silent fight within yourself or someone you care about? It's not easy to hold space for these contradictions, the yearning and the retreat, the hope and the fear. But by simply acknowledging these struggles, by naming the invisible battles, we take the first step toward compassion, both for others and for ourselves. Because the avoidant soul's journey is not about closing off but learning how to open safely. It's about turning that silent fight into a whispered conversation, one where vulnerability is met with kindness and connection feels possible again. And that beginning, however small, is the start of healing from within. And yet, the silent battles of the avoidant soul don't end with just holding back or retreating. Imagine the countless moments that pass unnoticed, the internal tug-of-war between what they feel and what they choose to show. These are the unseen struggles, the subtle emotional turmoil that shapes their every move, often leaving them caught in a cycle of protection and isolation. They don't want love, but they wrestle endlessly with the question: do I express my needs, or do I hide them away to keep the peace? This internal debate is a constant companion. To speak up feels like risking exposure, like opening a door that might flood the room with emotions too overwhelming to handle. So, many times, they choose silence over vulnerability, retreating further into themselves where no one can reach. Imagine a dam holding back a rising river, every suppressed feeling adds pressure, every unspoken need a rising tide threatening to break through. This emotional containment is both a shield and a cage. By avoiding confrontation or the messy business of emotional honesty, they protect their fragile sense of safety. But here's the paradox: the very act of protection builds walls that also keep genuine intimacy at bay. The tragedy is that these silent defenses, while necessary for survival, often deepen the loneliness. They create a divide not only between the avoidant soul and others but also between the avoidant soul and their own feelings. It's as if they are watching life through a frosted window, able to see the warmth and connection on the other side but unable to touch it without fear of shattering their carefully constructed barrier. And yet, these habitual silences are not born from choice but from a place of learned coping. They learned early that expressing too much might lead to pain, rejection, or being overwhelmed by emotions they couldn't yet understand or manage. So, silence became a language of survival, a way to say, I am here, but I am safe because I am not fully seen. But here's the truth: this silence, while protective, often leaves avoidant souls feeling misunderstood and profoundly disconnected. They might sit in a room full of people and feel utterly alone, not because no one cares, but because the walls they've built make it hard to let others in. Imagine trying to call out for help but hearing your own voice muffled by the thick fog of fear and mistrust. And yet, the internal struggle continues, a dance between two opposing forces. On one hand, there is a fierce desire for independence, the need to be self-sufficient, to not rely on others for emotional survival. On the other hand, there's a deep-seated fear of abandonment, an anxiety that if they push too far away, they might be left completely alone. This tension is like walking a tightrope stretched between two cliffs, where every step feels precarious and uncertain. They don't want love, but the irony is that their very efforts to protect themselves often push away the very connection they crave. Imagine trying to hold water in your hands. Clenching too tightly causes it to slip through your fingers, but opening too wide risks losing control. Avoidant souls often find themselves trapped in this impossible balance, unsure of how to keep their hearts safe while still allowing love to enter. The internal battles are also fought in the quiet moments, when no one is watching, and the avoidant soul confronts its own fears. If I show too much, will I be rejected? Am I too broken to be loved? Is it safer to just walk away? These questions echo in the chambers of their mind, sometimes louder than any external voice. This self-doubt is not just a fleeting thought but a persistent shadow that colors their view of themselves and others. And yet, despite these fears, there remains a flicker of hope, an unspoken wish that someday, someone will understand this silent language, will see the signals beneath the silence, and will offer a safe space where vulnerability doesn't equal pain. It's a hope that the tightrope walk will one day feel less precarious, where the risk of connection feels worth taking. They don't want love, but here's the truth: their avoidance is not a rejection of connection but a complex coping mechanism born from fear and past hurt. Every withdrawal, every moment of silence, is a protective gesture, an attempt to keep themselves whole in a world that sometimes feels overwhelmingly dangerous. Imagine carrying a backpack filled with stones, each stone a past disappointment, each weight a memory of being hurt or let down. The avoidant soul carries this burden silently, choosing not to share it because revealing the load might make it heavier or more visible. So, they keep walking alone, footsteps quiet but heavy. And yet, the paradox remains, these silent struggles, while exhausting and isolating, are also a form of resilience. They show a deep will to survive emotional storms, a determination to navigate relationships on terms that feel manageable. It's a delicate balancing act between needing connection and guarding against pain. This internal tension shapes their relationships in subtle ways. They might avoid confrontation not out of weakness but out of a desire to keep peace and avoid emotional chaos. They might suppress their needs because asking feels like admitting vulnerability they're not ready to face. And they might pull away emotionally, not because they don't care, but because the intensity feels overwhelming. But here's the truth, beneath this guarded exterior lies a heart that is trying. Trying to find a way to experience closeness without losing itself, trying to trust without being consumed by fear. It's like walking through a dense fog, uncertain of the path but moving forward with quiet hope. And so, the silent fights continue, not as battles to be won or lost, but as ongoing struggles to balance safety and connection, independence and intimacy. These are the unseen wars that shape the avoidant soul's emotional landscape, often invisible but deeply felt. Have you ever wondered what it's like to live inside this tension, to carry the weight of wanting closeness but fearing it at the same time? Understanding this paradox is the first step toward empathy, toward seeing avoidant souls not as distant or cold, but as deeply human beings navigating complex emotional terrain. Because the truth is, these silent struggles are not signs of failure or weakness, they are expressions of a soul trying to protect itself while still yearning for connection. And in recognizing this, we open the door to compassion, for others and for ourselves. And yet, the journey through these silent fights is not one they can make alone. The walls they build are thick and strong, but they are not impenetrable. With time, patience, and understanding, those walls can begin to soften, not by tearing them down forcefully, but by gently inviting vulnerability to step through the cracks. They don't want love, but they want to be seen. They want to be understood. They want to step beyond the silence and find a way to say, "Here I am, with all my fears and hopes." And though the path is narrow and often fraught with uncertainty, it is not impossible. Imagine the possibilities when the avoidant soul can lower their guard, even just a little, and find a safe harbor where their complexity is met with kindness. Imagine a world where silent fights are met with gentle listening, where emotional withdrawal is met with patient presence. This is the quiet hope that fuels the avoidant soul's journey, a hope that the silent battles will someday give way to open conversations, that the walls will become bridges, and that the tension between fear and desire will find a peaceful balance. And so, the silent fights continue, but they are not endless. They are part of a process, a journey toward healing, understanding, and connection. They are the intricate dance of a soul learning to navigate the delicate balance between self-protection and opening to love. The weight of carrying silent fights alone is a quiet weariness, a fatigue that settles deep in the bones, unseen but profoundly felt. Imagine walking a long road shrouded in fog, each step heavy with uncertainty and the burden of unspoken fears. The avoidant soul knows this weariness intimately, the exhaustion that comes from guarding the heart so fiercely that even the self feels distant. They don't want love, but the tragedy is that the solitude born from avoidance often breeds frustration and a sense of isolation so profound it can feel like a slow unraveling. Yet within this struggle, there's a hidden hope, fragile and flickering, yet persistent, that healing is possible, that connection is not beyond reach. Recognizing these silent struggles is the first step toward breaking the cycle. Imagine shining a gentle light into a dark room, not to expose flaws or weaknesses, but to create space for understanding and compassion. Awareness is that light. It's the moment when the avoidant soul begins to see their own patterns, not as faults to be condemned, but as defenses to be gently unraveled. This awareness invites self-compassion, a radical kindness toward the parts of themselves that have been so long misunderstood and neglected. It's saying, "I see you. I see the pain behind the silence, the fear behind the distance." And in that recognition, the harsh judgment softens, making room for patience and healing. They don't want love, but here's the truth, they also don't want to be stuck in the cycle of avoidance forever. With mindful reflection and the courage to face discomfort, the avoidant soul can begin to dismantle their emotional defenses, not all at once, but piece by piece, at a pace that feels safe. Imagine a garden slowly blooming after a harsh winter, each new bud a small victory, each petal unfolding a step toward openness. Healing doesn't mean suddenly becoming fearless or perfectly open, it means learning to hold vulnerability without being overwhelmed, learning to trust in small doses, and allowing connection to grow naturally. This path requires patience, not just from others, but from the avoidant soul themselves. There will be setbacks, times when the walls feel necessary again, moments when retreat feels safer than risk. And that's okay. Healing is not linear, it's a winding road with peaks and valleys, and every step forward, no matter how small, is a testament to courage. They don't want love, but the journey toward it is also a journey toward self-acceptance. It's about embracing all the contradictions within, the fear and the longing, the strength and the vulnerability, and learning that they can coexist without tearing the soul apart. Imagine standing before a mirror, not to criticize but to truly see, to meet the eyes of someone who has survived silent battles and lived to hope again. This is the moment when compassion turns inward, when the avoidant soul begins to rewrite the story they tell themselves, replacing, "I am not enough," with, "I am worthy of love." And yet, transformation is not just about self-work, it's about connection. It's about finding or creating relationships where vulnerability is met with understanding, where silence can be broken gently, and where the avoidant soul feels safe enough to take off the armor, even if only a little at a time. They don't want love, but here's the truth, connection doesn't have to be perfect or immediate. It's a mosaic built from small moments of trust, quiet affirmations, and patient presence. It's the gentle hand that doesn't rush or push but waits with steady kindness. Imagine a space where the avoidant soul can say, "Here I am, imperfect and afraid, but willing to try." And imagine that space responding with, "I see you. I hear you. You are not alone." This is the balm that can soothe the wounds of avoidance, the remedy found not in grand gestures but in consistent, compassionate presence. The path beyond silent fights is not easy, but it is possible. It calls for courage, not the absence of fear, but the willingness to move forward despite it. It invites understanding, not only from others but from the avoidant soul toward themselves. They don't want love, but they want to be healed. They want to be seen beyond their defenses. They want to experience connection without the weight of fear. And though the journey may be long, every step taken toward awareness, compassion, and openness brings them closer to that reality. Imagine a future where the silent battles soften, where the walls become bridges, and where the avoidant soul no longer fights alone but walks hand in hand with understanding and hope. That future is not just a dream, it's a possibility waiting to be embraced, one gentle step at a time.